triggering change, one heartbeat at a time. Battle for freedom. Welcome, everyone. This is Watson Prunier from Battle for Freedom on Mojo5 Radio. I'm your host, Watson Prunier from Battle for Freedom, and I'm glad that you're joining me today as we make it through another day of election week, or whatever we're going to call this, because the fact that the election still has not been decided, even though we know exactly who won the presidency. I'm your host, Watson Prunier. My website's Battle4Freedom.com. I want you to go there, share it out with as many people as you possibly can. My website, Battle4Freedom.com. I also want you to do me a favor. I want you to go to Mojo50.com. Well, it's Mojo50.com, but again, go to Mojo50.com and share this with as many people as you possibly can, because of the fact that we're about getting the information out and freeing people from whatever bondage that they may be in. Good morning, Sarah. Thank you for joining. Sarah is one of the many people who are going to decide, and I see Belinda as well, to go to facebook.com/Mojo50 Radio so that they can interact with this broadcast. Here's your chance. You can do it, every last one of you. You can do this and be part of the program. I'll do the best that I can to capture your comments and be ready for this. Yesterday was a very passionate and very interesting broadcast as we talked about the Trump defeat in 2020. Now, I left the title open because of the fact that we are going to watch how this thing is going to roll out. And I'm asking many of you to consider much prayer if you haven't done it. Much prayer in terms of the direction this country is going to go, because there's a serious problem going on in here. And honestly, as we watch the level of corruption that's going on, as we watch the level of just downright thievery going on, and it's unashamed of how this is going on in this country right now, where people actually believe, and I love the memes that are out there. You're telling me a guy who could barely get 17 to 70 people at his rallies all year long, who stayed in the basement almost this whole year, somehow is going to win at least 70 million Americans? The guy who has clear mental deficiencies. I don't need a doctor's degree to recognize how problematic it is for Joe Biden. And what's really sad is because of the fact that as I'm watching this, as this thing is unveiling itself right in front of our eyes, and people are not trying to hide this. Folks, buckle up, buttercups, because this is about to get really crazy. And let's get up. We're talking about crazy. That's it. I've hit the snooze button a dozen times, and now I have to finally get going. But I'm not going to do this day right if I don't start it off with a cup of American Pride Roasters coffee, the official coffee of Mojo5 Radio. But I'm not going to lie to you. They have a wide variety of blends, but I'm leaning towards the one that's named after me, Watson's White Chocolate Caramel. You know what? It sounds as good as those words that just rolled off of my mouth. Listen, get it today. AmericanPrideRoasters.com. Tell them that Watson from Battle for Freedom sent you, and you want Watson's White Chocolate Caramel blend to start your day off. Join American Pride Roasters Coffee and Mojo5 Radio, and most important, Battle for Freedom, as we celebrate the best coffee in the nation, American Pride Roasters. Yes, do it. Start off with American Pride Roasters coffee, folks. Do this because I think you're going to need all the coffee to be awake and pay attention as to we look at everything that's been unfolding in our country, as we've been watching the clear level of just unashamed corruption going on right now, where people are basically cheating at levels we never ever in our lives could imagine. And I was talking to some of my friends. I have friends who normally they go to sleep. There's by between 8:30 and 9 o'clock, there's asleep. And we're talking last night, like, how is this even possible to watch the level of the votes that are coming in here? I'm trying to find this one graphic that one of my friends shared earlier, and it was just showing the whole idea out there. Here it is. That talks about the idea of these. You look at the numbers
of the people who voted versus the number of people who actually have the right to vote or are registered to vote in these communities. And the numbers are ridiculous as we see what's happening here. Yeah, let me just put this one up here, and I don't care about formatting, but here you go. So we're looking at Nevada, 1,277,000 voters registered, and it's projected that we're getting a 125% turnout. I mean, remember, when you think about this, in the previous election, I mean, we barely had, what, 70, 80% people show up, in previous elections. And now we're seeing 125%. That means that there has to be an actual count, and even in Georgia, to see 96% of people, quote unquote, turning out. When on average, you barely make, what, 80, 85 people? If you're lucky, 80, 85% of the people showing up. And these are the numbers that we're seeing. Projected votes when they're sitting there counting and seeing what's happening here. So when you see this, why do I call this Sodom and Gomorrah 2020? The progressive rape culture? Is because of the fact that we have, when you sit here and you complain, and for 3.5 years, almost 4 years, you go on a campaign to talk about Russian collusion, you go on a campaign to talk about quid pro quo, you actively seek to rush through an impeachment efforts against the President of the United States of America. Oh yeah. And then you sit there and have the nerve to complain about the President of the United States of America rushing through the SCOTUS hearing for Amy Coney Barrett. When you actually have a culture where you sit here and you rally accusations, you empower Antifa and Black Lives Matter to continue to destroy the landscape of America, but cry from the moment that Donald Trump is elected president that he is going to turn America more and more racist, that Donald Trump is somehow, some way going to make everything more violent. He's going to bring more violence to this country. You want to know how much violence? If there's any violence, it's in response, it's in retaliation to the violence that has been going on by the progressive rape culture called socialism, called the Democrat Party. That you're going to cheat at all costs. To be silent, to sit here, you have to understand something here, because I'm sitting here and I'm calling it out, and I'm going to do it straight right now. Now, I know that there's definitely some wickedness in the conservative party. I definitely acknowledge that there is some wickedness and evil wickedness in the conservative party. And it's not just the people who want to go against the President of the United States of America. Understand this: if you're a conservative who has clamored about fiscal responsibility and you keep signing bills, spending billions and trillions of dollars of American taxpayer dollars, yeah, you're a hypocrite. You're a hypocrite, period. And any other dark secret of yours will be unveiled, because I believe that many people have grown too comfortable to believe that they can carry on raping American people, whether it's financially, spiritually, physically, and that there will be no accountability. There will be zero accountability to this. You guys know, in the height of the Me Too movement, things have come out about how there's a fund in Congress that settles sexual assault disputes, that settles sexual, accusations or whatever. There is a large till of money that covers this for the congressional candidates, but they never tell you about that what happens with the Democrat candidates. They always keep talking about how Donald Trump's the rapist. How, what was his name? He was defeated in, was it Louisiana or Georgia? Or I can't remember, one of the southern states. Well, he had the inappropriate relationship with that young lady. And I think it was a teenager. We have all this information about all these other different people. We're for Me Too. We're for women's rights. We're for protecting women. And we're about hearing women and giving them an equal voice. But their rape culture has emanated from them in ways that is undeniable. You can't sit here and say that you don't recognize how the Democrats are being hypocritical and how they're attacking women. Look at what they did to Sarah Palin. Look what they try and do to Candace Owens. Look what they're trying to do to Melania Trump. I mean, how many more women do you need to see in reference to? I mean, look at what they're doing to Kirstie Alley. It's amazing how fat shaming has turned around and become so. It's no longer an issue because of the fact that we're going to. Victoria's Secret is going plus model. Victoria's Secret and many of these other different areas are going plus model. Kirstie Alley's plus. When you sit there and you attack her. See, so when I talk about Sodom and Gomorrah 2020, I want to talk about the progressive rape culture and the fact that there is no conscience in the left. And because there's a few things that I have to wonder, and I just wonder on this. When we look at what's taking place in front of our faces right now, that people are choosing to be completely silent on this craziness. It's clear. It's clear. Even some of my friends who are on the left are saying this is pretty shameful. This is pretty disappointing on what's happening here. Good morning, Lep. Good morning, Sarah. Good morning, Linda and Renee. Thank you very much for joining and being part of this today, as well as you, Curtis, if I didn't catch you earlier. But I'm watching this thing unfold. The president has every right. The president has every right to get the vote. Listen, Michigan, Wisconsin, Arizona, Nevada, I would even Pennsylvania, Virginia, I would even dare say Virginia, that this is another avenue that needs to be checked to verify this. See, this is what's happening right now. For all of you who keep talking about voter suppression, voter intimidation by the left on trying to keep black people and minorities not having IDs, this is the reason why we're trying to do this. There are people who are basically talking about this yesterday about they went to go vote and they were never asked for ID. They were never asked for ID. They were just given the right to go vote, walked right in, cast their ballot, and walked right out the door. My wife and I, we had to hand over our what is the new frame? What's the new term for the new IDs that we had to update? Someone help me in the timeline here because of the fact that I can't remember the name of it. You know, where it was due by the end of this year, and it needed to be required by next year. But our IDs had to change and have to have a new signature on it to verify that it is the proper ID for being used, it doesn't matter where you go, but the new ID form. Well, you have a barcode, you have so many different things. And my things that I'm sitting here, this is the reason why they don't want the votes. Good morning, Carolyn, and thank you for joining. You sit here and you watch us. They don't want ID presented because, you know what? On the back of my ID, there's a barcode. You can scan and that's what they did with my card and my wife's card. They scanned our ID. And so what happens is the moment that you do this and you have a computer system somewhere that goes all the way up to, the state level, you protect this information. The moment that you scan, the moment that you go off and you do this, bam, your ID is registered. So that means at the moment that it goes there, it should be automatically counted. And not only that, I would dare say that when you register to vote, if you don't have an email address, you get a printed copy of what you just voted so that you can walk away saying, yes, this is exactly the way I voted. My ID, my vote, printed, there is my receipt. And if you don't want a printed receipt because you don't want to walk away with it, you turn around and you basically have it emailed to you. When you register to vote, you have an email. And you have this secured email to prevent making, and you know what? And if you have a dispute on this, you have to be called and there has to be a process that makes certain that your vote comes through. It's so sad that we're actually to this point. It's so sad that we're actually to this point where this is the reason why. Voter intimidation. They don't want black people to vote. But black people, You need a driver's license to get into how many different things? You need ID to get into how many different things? And you see how they're now trying, because you remember how we have that whole long list of things that require an ID. Getting food stamps, basically going into basically go drink. I mean, because if having ID to vote is basically against the law, then that means having ID to drink should also be against the law as well. But no one wants to talk about that. No, everybody wants to get all emotional. You just try to suppress black people from voting. Really? See, you know what? For y'all, for every individual who chose to vote for Joe Biden, I'm glad you voted. I'm glad you voted. If you legally voted for Joe Biden, I'm happy that you voted, that you executed your right to vote. My concern are the illegal votes, the millions of illegal votes for Joe Biden that was cast throughout the country to win this election process. The millions. That's where I have a problem. Again, I'm really saddened that it has actually come this far. And you know what this means? This is judgment. This is judgment for the United States of America. Clear all the way through. When I sit here and I talk to you, Sodom and Gomorrah 2020, do you realize that we're not talking about children? Do you realize that we're not talking about children being sold into sex slave? Do you realize that bigger than COVID is a child sex slave? Epstein Island. What we were doing to the children. Pizzagate. Every last one thing that we were talking to you about these children, whether they're in foster care or whatever, whether they were stuck out in a homeless situation. No wonder Democrats want people to be more and more homeless. Because if people are disheveled, if they're homeless and no one knows where to find them, hey, who's to prevent them from becoming slick sex slave dolls for the elite, for Hollywood, and for government officials? You sit here and you create this situation where people cannot be free. You keep the situation where everything seems hopeless for them, and then that's when you manipulate them best. I believe that there are a lot of people I believe there are a lot of American citizens who sold their vote for a cup of soup, for a bowl of soup. I believe this is where the progressive rape culture continues to basically make minorities, make women, and make other individuals feel so unimportant that they're desperate and they will take any chance and they'll take any opportunity to succeed, not realizing that they're grabbing for crumbs rather than reaching for a loaf or even a slice of bread. And this is where I'm kind of mad, and this is where I want us to change exactly, we are in a point where we have to interact with our neighbors. We have to interact with people. And there are so many people that I believe that we need to be reaching in. My buddy Tim, he was telling me about this. So he's from, I believe, the Michigan area, and he said that, for the last 57 years, Republicans have been trying to give money towards the black community, and the black community within 2 years destroys it. So let's deal with that reality for a second here. I'm not denying that reality that the communities have been destroyed. My question is what kind of leadership or what kind of discipleship was left over for them to understand, I'm giving you this pot of gold. Now this is how you use the pot of gold. See, because anybody can make a building. I mean, you look in New York, you look in Chicago, you look in various cities, you have your projects, right? And I think that term is very key because, again, that's a level of rape towards the culture in the sense that we create these projects for these minorities to actually give them some kind of quote unquote hope. But we have done nothing to instruct them. We've done nothing to help them. Yes, because you have to understand something. Republicans are now doing or have done what Democrats have done. Make a promise or build a nice little building and then walk away. And then just assume that everything is just going to run. No, you know what? If we're going to be involved in trying to see people's lives change, we need to actually be in their lives. We have to sit here and actually spend that quality and time so we can help people understand. And some people, they just will never get it. But I believe that there's always some small segment, some small minority of people who actually want to rise out of mediocrity. There are people who just don't know. There's some people who are so programmed that they need to learn. Turn off that TV. Stop looking at CNN. Stop looking at NBC. Stop looking at these channels and wake up and rise out of the ashes and no longer be raped by these people who quote unquote care about you. I mean, think about this. I think do you realize how easy it is for us to want everything for free? Oh, trust me, there are things that I want for free. There are things that I don't want to spend money on. But what happens is, even in that mentality, even in that you get a toaster, you get a toaster, you get a toaster from Oprah, everybody's looking for that toaster and who's going to give something to them for free. And they don't want to even actually ever entertain the idea of working hard for what they want. Maybe you don't understand exactly what I'm saying. Let's get into some American Pride Roasters, not American Pride Roasters coffee.
Does your mind seem like it often
New Life Holistic
shuts down before it even starts? Sounds like you need to detox to improve your health in body, mind, and spirit. I'd like to tell you about New Life Holistic. It is an amazing therapy process that uses neurofeedback and biofeedback for many issues that ails everyone. New Life's method and approach to health, balance, energy, and vitality is what sets it apart from anything you have experienced ever before. Call 1-833-4-BIO-LIFE and tell them Watson from Battle4Freedom has sent you. One more thing. Give them the code MOJO50 and save $50 off of your first session. The consult is free. New Life Holistic.
Yes, people are going to need to recover spiritually, mentally, in so many different ways, and the issue of what's taking place here. The rape culture, when we sit here and we watch this, you watch all the movies of gangsters, you watch all the movies of black kids and black people struggling. I mean, look, for crying out loud, look at Boys in the Hood with Cuba Gooding Jr. and Lawrence Fishburne. I mean, it wasn't a white person who killed Cuba Gooding Jr. or his brother in Boys in the Hood. See, you sit here and understand, I sit here and talk about rape culture. Let's take off the E in the word rape. And the rap culture that basically talks about people constantly putting people down, calling black women bees and hoes and everything like that. You sit here and you watch this thing about, well, I'm just going to drink. I'm going to sit here. I'm going to enjoy my Hennessy. I'm going to do it. Now, granted, I'm sure that you could find the same thing in a trailer park community where they're going to find the lowest things to celebrate on and focus on and take you away from people appreciating and realizing exactly who they are in God. I'm sure we could find it in every culture, in the Hispanic culture, in the white culture, in the black culture. I would even go so far, even in the Asian culture, that there's always a group of a majority of people in those communities that look for the lowest common denominator to focus on, and that is the reason why we have the outright deceptions and devious behavior happening right now in our country, because people want to steal an election by casting illegal ballots. It's because of the fact that we have too much of the majority in our countries and in our communities celebrating the lowest common denominator. Folks, we're going to get rid of this progressive rape culture, and we all are going to participate in setting so many Americans free. I'm your host, Watson, pregame for Battle4Freedom. Go on to break. Talk to you on the flip side.
This election will be vital to the health and sustainability of our country. Our role from this day on could steer the election in either direction. Why? The way we treat one another. In John 13:35, Jesus says, "By this all people will know that you are my disciples, if you have love for one another." We know that every election cycle brings out the worst in us. If there was ever a point for honesty, it is in how we act during election season. As much as we would want our candidate to win, attacking a person with contrary opinions only makes them determined to reject our point of view all the more. It may come off as ignorant from them, but we cannot claim innocence if we allow arrogance and disrespect to be the means in which we communicate with those who support the other party or other candidates. Our goal was and will never be to convert voters. Our role is to give them the information needed prior to them casting their vote. It is their choice and right of what they do with that information. Understand, more people are aware of the political corruption and hypocrisy than they wish or want to admit. So there's nothing for us to prove. Choose to be people who invoke change rather than people who irritate and strain. Dale Carnegie once wrote, "A man convinced against his will is of the same opinion still." In other words, give people the room to make their own mistakes. Without seeing that they were wrong, they would be blind to see what is right. Remember, every soldier present and gone have fought for the right of every American citizen to vote their own conscience. To insult and ridicule people for exercising their liberty to vote for their candidate is to also desecrate the efforts, memories, and sacrifices made by our heroes for said liberty. Please, show respect. Our nation depends on it.
Welcome back, everyone. This is Watson Prunier from Battle for Freedom on Mojo5 Radio, and I'm glad that you're joining me and having this discussion with me today as we talk about Sodom and Gomorrah 2020, the progressive rape culture. My website, battle4freedom.com. I also want you to go to mojo50.com. Mojo50, glad to be part of this network. And again, congratulations to Eric and Raquel as you guys in room 13. Also want to say congratulations to all the other hosts who made an attempt to be part of the network. All I can do is encourage you, keep broadcasting, because it'll be great to see your names possibly on the list of the hosts for Mojo5 Radio in the future. Every last one of us, we need to be communicating. We need to be communicating more and more as we look at this thing that's going on right now. I want to show you, this is what the news is probably not going to show you. You're probably not going to find this on CNN. But here you go. FU fascist, foul-mouthed, female, anti-Trump protester spits in a police officer's face and is tackled to the ground. So you sit here and you watch this thing here where this young lady decides that she's got her phone up. Her name is Davina Singh, 24 years old. And she decides, and she knows she was thrown to the floor and arrested. Because you know what? Spitting in the face of people is wrong. You can have an opinion, but you want to spit? You want to spit in the face of a police officer in the age of COVID? In the age of COVID? I mean, long before COVID, you understood that there could be so many different things that can actually be in your spit, in your saliva, that could be transferred into and onto another person. If she had any form of hepatitis, if she had AIDS, if she had any kind of disease, we covered this stuff in first aid class, in providing first response to situations. That this is how things are transmitted, is through bodily fluids. You're going to spit in a police officer's face? I mean, that was a felony charge already as it is. And if this police officer gets sick because of this particular person, if their family gets sick because she spat in this police officer's face, see, now mind you, that Davina Sing individual probably accuses Donald Trump of rape, probably accuses Donald Trump of racism, probably accuses Donald Trump of a lot of violence, but has no problem in committing the violence themselves. So what we need to do is you know, we need to figure out a way to change this thing around. Guys, gals, we're going to control the narrative now. We need to control the narrative. I think I started alluding to this yesterday. One of the things that we need to do is, has God blessed you with financial stability? Now, what I'm about to ask you next is going to be, I know it's uncomfortable, I know it's challenging, but our actions have to speak louder than their words. Understand this, that there are so many people who are tired of the progressivism that's going on right now. Understand this, Donald Trump did not lose yesterday because of the fact that there were enough people voting him out. Donald Trump is losing because of the fact that there's so many people cheating. And what happens here is you have your progressive family members and friends who are out there, and I'm certain that many of them are completely quiet. Many of them are completely quiet because of the fact that, you know what, some of them, maybe they may be downright diabolical individuals who are sinful and they don't care, and in their pride they don't want to call out the clear election fraud that's taking place right now by the Democrats. You know what? And for those individuals, you know, all we can do is we could pray for them. Don't engage them. Don't fight them. Because right now they are so far removed from the truth, and many of them call themselves Christians. Do not engage with them. All you can do is pray for them. Pray. Seriously, folks, if we have not started praying, yet, y'all better start praying now. Because don't worry about who may be in the White House. I'm talking about who may be in the next house. Not just who's in the White House, not who's just in power, but who is in the next house. Not even the next house, the next room. We need a level of discipleship. The church right now, this is the last call for alcohol. No, the last call for the church to raise its voice and start being a beacon of salt and light in the community. This is it. We're here. It's the final countdown. Praying and repentance. Yes, you're correct, Renee. Praying and repentance is very key. And I'm saying that we need to financially get involved in certain communities. If you live in a community where you can see this downtrodden, I'm going to ask you to do me a favor. Now, I'm not asking you to unveil all your secrets. I'm not asking you to make yourself completely bare and give everything that you have. But I am asking you that if God has put someone in your life, there's someone that you can minister to, that God has put someone in your life that you can help and you can guide on this journey called life, I'm asking you to take that step. I'm asking you to take a step, that you step into their lives and basically, speak with them, talk with them, start helping them. See, we have been so focused on, I want to win at all costs, and I don't care who I leave behind. Not realizing that the more and more people that we help, the more and more people, see, we've been fighting this battle for so long that we've allowed people to just be Democrats and not give them the better way. And honestly, to tell you the truth, it's not just letting them live a better way. We have not given people an opportunity to see us live that better way. Stop talking about fiscal responsibility from the Republican Party, where it's clear we haven't stopped spending money, and it's clear that you haven't, or we haven't stopped spending money. How can we sit here and expect people who are living in the projects, living in the ghettos, living in the trailer parks, to have any hope, have any desire to live better when we're not setting the example? So in part, we are saying things with our mouths, but we're not walking it with our feet. That's rape. That is rape. Because you're sitting there giving people hope and then stripping it away by not giving them an example of how that hope is carried out. There's a part for us that we have to walk this process before. I'm not saying no. Do they need to see your bank account? No. Do they need to see your private stash? No. Do they need to know your private passwords and everything like that? No. Well, they do at least need to see that you're consistent with your worldview. And albeit if it's a Christian worldview, if it's a biblical worldview, if it's a worldview that trusts in God no matter what, they need to really start seeing that. They really need to start seeing us, when they really start changing. Something, interesting. There's a lot of comments here, so guys, thank you very much on this whole what you're sharing. Mitchell Brady said, I felt that Trump missed opportunities when Chicago asked for help and Baltimore asked. Yes, you're right. Well, see, here's my thing. Yes and no. Yes and no. Yes, in the sense that, yes, the president should have spent less time arguing with the people. Good morning, Dawn. Thank you for joining. The president should have spent less time arguing with the mayors of these cities and everything like that. But no, from this perspective, because it shouldn't have been Trump going into these communities. It should have been us. It should have been us. We are the ambassadors. If we are the ambassadors of liberty, if we are the ambassadors of Christ, it should be us going through. We are front line support. I got to find this here. I got a very encouraging message by one of my buddies. He is a soccer coach, and he is a great American patriot that I really appreciate, and he really touched my heart the other day with something that he said here. I need to take you to this because of the fact that it was humbling to see what was shared with me the other day. He says to me, thank you for fighting the fight and being a bastion of light. Your posts and comments give timely hope for sure, and we are truly entering uncharted territory in the battle between light and darkness. And I love this with what he says. I'm reminded of the scripture over and over in my mind. Choose you this day whom you will serve. And that is the question God is asking people who call themselves believers. He says to me, you are the front lines. But just like Moses, you have many behind you holding up your arms with prayer. And I said, and he said, this election truly is a battle for freedom. And so that really humbled me that he shared. And I said, you know what? Prayer is a frontline endeavor. Prayer is a frontline endeavor. Because we need to be getting more and more engaged, folks. We need to be getting so engaged that we're helping people. I'm not lying. When I sit here and talk about us getting involved, I don't care if they're black. I don't care if they're white. I don't care if they're straight. I don't care if they're gay. Sit down and have a conversation with that individual. Talk to them. What's their story? What's going on? Ultimately, as believers, we want people to know who Christ is. We want them to find their new identity in Christ. I'm telling you that one of the biggest problems that, you know what, and it's so sad. I am so heartbroken for every victim of rape, for every victim of sexual assault, for every victim who has received unwanted sexual advances. So it's horrific. One of the things that we don't talk about, one of the things that we don't recognize or even appreciate in this is that there's an identity struggle with people who go through that. The victims of rape, the victims of assault. There's an identity issue because oftentimes fear becomes their new identity. Oftentimes there's a level of darkness in which they choose not to speak. They choose not to fight back because of the fact that their vigor and their strength and everything about them has been just decimated by a sinful act of another individual. Do you recognize that us choosing to be part of the lives of these individuals, sometimes it's just listening to them. Sometimes it's just taking that time to listen. Yeah, cut off the TV, cut off that show. I know you want to stream that show. It'll be available next week or tomorrow. Cut off that football game. You can actually go back and watch it later. Cut off whatever it is that you're watching. Disconnect from all those distractive things, because we have an opportunity to actually start offering the balm in the midst of this progressive rape culture that has taken so much away from countless victims in America. Now, see, what they try and do in the social programs, in the social justice movement, they basically try to push that the violence of the silence is violence, and racism has basically raped people from their ability to succeed in life. And I dare say that that is nothing but a manufactured pill that is filled with poison. It is a manufactured pill that has been filled with sedatives to basically remove the level of discernment in the minds and hearts and spirits of individuals who just want to succeed, who are just trying to get by. Yes, Renee, insecurity and trust, a lack of trust takes over their lives. Insecurity and a lack of trust takes over their lives. So we have a role, we have a responsibility in this rape culture, because, see, it's not just the men and women in blue. It's not just our soldiers who put on their uniforms and they defend our liberties. It is time for the rest of us to rise up to the occasion. Why should our men in blue sacrifice their lives, sacrifice their families to protect us, and we won't do the same for our neighbors? And I'm not saying get in line and lock arms side to side to chant that that Black Lives Matter. No. That's a farce. That's a lie. That's a pit. That's nothing but from the pit of hell. I believe get into the lives of those individuals, because there's far too many Black people succeeding in this country who are not they may be affected by racism, but they did not allow that racism to define them or slow them down. That they are barreling forward by the grace of God and the success in their lives, and they need to know that you know what? We're here and we're behind them. My buddy says that there are a bunch of people who choose to stand behind me, holding up my arms when I'm too tired. When I'm too tired, I get so much joy. I get so much encouragement. The Lord wakes me up. He empowers me every day to speak and do the best that I can to help you rise you out of the ashes of depression, and help you rise out of the ashes of defeat, and help you rise out of the ashes of just giving up. Don't give up. Because you may not see the significance in your life right now, but God is telling you, you have more than significance that you ever can imagine. Read Psalm 139, verses 13 through 18. Read every verse in that segment there that talks about you being fearfully and wonderfully made, and how God has seen and God has appointed value in you. You don't want to hear it. You don't, because maybe you've been dogged down. Maybe you've been beaten up for so long that you can't hear the truth. This is where we step in, folks. This is where we step in and we start talking to these individuals and looking them right in the eyes and telling them, you are loved by God. See, the left's mantra when Trump was going through in 2016, love trumps hate. We have an opportunity to share that with so many countless individuals. There's so many people who are living defeated lives. And you know what? If we just broke our normal pattern of living and decided to actually deposit something into these people's lives, to these neighbors' lives, to these individual lives, these human lives. I mean, look what Amy Coney Barrett did by just adopting two kids from Haiti. Let's take the labels off. That you help a life that was struggling. There are countless individuals, Black and white, Hispanic and Asian, who decide that they want to go off and bless people. Let's encourage that power. Let's encourage that spirit of helping those who just cannot be helped. And again, maybe you don't have the finances to help other individuals. I understand that. But what about the time? What about our time? There are people who are on the brink of giving up right now, and they just need someone to listen. There are people hurting right now, and they need someone to listen. Thank you, Renee, for your words of encouragement. Because of the fact that we cannot fix this situation. We cannot see government. We cannot see our country change. We cannot see our leaders change if we're not willing to actually create better leaders. Better leaders in all walks of life. But prayerfully, these leaders have been healed by the word of God, healed by the grace of God, and healed to the point that, you know what, it doesn't matter what has affected their past, it doesn't matter what's affecting their present, and they don't care what their future looks like. They know that their life is secure in the hands of an all-powerful, all-knowing, and ever-present God who chose to send his son to die on the cross for us. See, we have the opportunity. Do you know how honored I am to have you listening to me right now? Do you know how honored I am to have you sharing me out to as many people as you possibly can? Why? Because of that, what I just said a few seconds ago. For my opportunity to turn around and share the love, grace, and mercy of God with every individual who's listening, who are under the sound of my voice. Thank you, Carolyn. Hugs. You guys ever see, I think it's a black guy, and he just goes around basically saying free hugs. He just goes around and now granted, COVID makes that a little bit, challenging unless he's going to put on like a plastic cellophane or whatever to wrap his body in this. But here it is. We have an opportunity to go in and touch lives. This idea that actually hugging someone and the idea of actually putting your hand on someone's shoulder, the idea of grabbing someone's hand, that tactile thing is making such a difference. There was an article one of my wife's clients and friends, a good friend of the family, shared the other day. I'm going to find this for you because of the fact that this was so powerful in reference to what it talks about with people in the negative things that has happened, to a lot of American lives as a result of the what is it called here? Because of the lockdown, because of what has been affecting many of us, there is this word, ACEDIA, the lost name for the emotion we're feeling right now. I'm going to put this in the timeline in Facebook. I'm going to put it in the comments so that you can read this. It's a very interesting thing that talks about how being isolated has some very negative effects on countless individuals. And they talk about this thing, you'll hear a term called the noonday demon. And you see how us being separated from people has psychological effects. We learned about it. Children are struggling because of the fact that, you know what, they love the interaction with their classmates, whether it's via online or whatever, but most of them need that tactile experience of holding the hands or joking around and having that camaraderie. And if children are suffering at that level, what about adults? What about the people who have been locked up and caged in their homes for so long that this whole COVID lockdown thing, and that's been perpetuated by evil, wicked people, is literally keeping people in solitary confinement to which they cannot breathe. They can't breathe. They can't feel. They can't do half the things that they are programmed to do because of the fact that they are locked down. It's our time. It's our chance. Here is our moment. Here is the chance to rise and step out and start touching people. make a difference in their lives. That neighbor, yesterday I was coming home and I saw these two elderly women. They were walking their dog and they were coming down the street and coming along the sidewalk. And, it was just, do you know how refreshing it is just to say hi to people and just watch them look back as they're like, thank you for taking the time out to say hi. I mean, do you realize that we have been locked down for so long, and even though there are people who are walking on the street, do you know how many of them really want you to say hi to them? Do you know how many people really want you to acknowledge them? They have been, you don't know what their lives have been like. Yes, Carolyn. Carolyn says, I smile to people and tell them to have a blessed day. People need smiles to show them we care. Yes, yes, yes. This is the simple act of a smile. The simple act of a hello, the simple act of a handshake or a hug makes so much of a difference because we don't know what people are going through. When I sit here, because understand this and understand this clearly. Do I agree with the people who are trying to steal the election? No, I don't. And some of those people, are they just downright diabolical? Maybe they are. I don't know. But I believe that there's a segment of people who are in this act of desperation believing that cheating is the only way that they're going to get through. And not only on the left, but even on the right. Regardless of your political affiliation, there are people who believe that cheating at all costs matters. Why are they to that point? Raquel Lee from room 13, says, we are social creatures, and this quarantine is distancing, and distancing has damaged that for all of us. Amen. Amen. And see, so do you realize something so simple as a lockdown is it is a forced rape culture? It is a forced rape culture because we are raping innocent lives from the much needed interaction. Yes, God created us to be social people. And even as you sit there and you watch, some people like, leave me alone, stay away from me, I don't want anything. It's amazing when you actually start interacting with people who are hermits. And their disposition changes because they're having human interaction, because something made them feel that being away from other people is going to be the best that my life can be. And then you have some innocent soul that goes in and starts talking to them and actually letting them know you have value. What is that? What is that thing in the help? You is kind. You is beautiful. You is special. It's not just that we are the help. We are the help that talks into the lives of grown-ups and children and so many countless other individuals. This is how we recover from the rape. This is how we recover from the rape culture that has been destroying America. And it happens with every last one of you, every last one of us. Raquel Lee, she says, I work in retail, and it breaks my heart to not be able to see the faces of my customers and not be able to listen to them and hear clearly through the masks and plastic shields. Yeah. I mean, it is so stinking annoying trying to talk through the shield. I mean, through the masks and everything like that. It removes so many dynamics away from a casual conversation that literally could mean the difference of life and death in so many other individuals. Suicide's up. Suicide's up because of the lockdown. So people have lost hope because of the lockdown, because they've been told, I don't care what your life was like before. I don't care how little less value that you had in your life before. We're going to even diminish it that much more that it's going to be difficult for you to even speak with the very people who are standing right in front of you. The people who are sick, the people who are truly sick from COVID-19 should be quarantined, and the rest of society needs to be able to function. But understand this, when social media keeps knocking down the realities of this pandemic, understand this is psychological warfare against countless individuals, and we need to be warriors who rise out of this and make a difference. Seriously, this is homework assignment for everybody. I know you have at least 1 to 5 people in your life that you can go in, you can deal with, and you can have a conversation with right now that you could bless them, that you could help them if you choose to get off of your butt and make a difference. I know you can. I know you have it within you. My attitude of gratitude, this is quick, B4FAOG@gmail.com. Send me your beautiful story because I want to share this with everyone. B4FAOG@gmail.com. I want you to share that with as many people as you possibly can. My attitude of gratitude today is every last one of you. You have a chance, and I know you will. I know you will touch a life today in a good way. Please make a difference. Brad Staggs and Daily Mojo's up next if you're listening in the morning, and if in the afternoon, it is Andrew Coppins with Critical Thinking. Everyone, I'm your host, Watson Prunier. Take care. God bless. I'm out.